Hi, this is Robert with Cruzbike coming to you from the Florida Bike Safari 2024. Today we're going to install the new race cage. The race cage is our new carrying case / aero accessory for the back of your V20C or your S40. Here we have it on the back of a V20C. We're going to do an install on an S40. This is a great way to carry a couple water bottles, your jacket, spare items that you need. It's not necessarily a touring heavy duty case, but it's great for an aero accessory and also great for carrying those daily things that you need to haul on your bike. So the race cage attaches to the headrest tubes. It works with the stock headrest tubes on the S40 and the V20C. It'll also work with our other headrest accessories. Since you use the headrest tubes even using the adjustable carbon fiber seat, if you have that accessory, then the race cage will simply attach to the stock headrest tubes. All right, let's get doing an install here. All right, let's go over what features make the race cage a great new accessory for you. 1, it's light. 2, it is also nice and quiet on the road. That's another great feature of it. On the inside, we have a small floor and also a divider. I'll get to that later, kind of on why you might want to use the divider if you're going to use the race cage to carry water bottles. But everything is modular. The cover slips on over the cage. Has a nice zip top closure. And when you put this on, it's nice and tight, so it's a good stretch when it gets on here. So take note of that. It simply stretches over the top of the frame and Velcros on. The top part can fold down against the interior wall, so you have a nice little closed section in addition to an open section where you can carry water bottles. And we can see here we have our back section open, so we can carry our tools and tubes if you have it, sunscreen, all those things you need to carry, keys, and that stays nice and closed in the inside. And then with that flap simply zip shut halfway and then fold it over and Velcro together. As you can see, we have the Velcro attachment right there, closes up nice and tight. Now it's not waterproof, but it is possible you could cover the entire thing with a cover. It's really meant for race day type carrying, fast fair weather riding. On the inside of the race cage are bottle mounts for cages. You can mount them in 2 different positions. We'll show you that later. Mounts with 2 clamps. Here we can see that we have it mounted to a bike that has a aftermarket carbon fiber adjustable seat. Now, depending on the angle of the headrest tubes, as you note, the S40 angle of the headrest tubes is slightly forward. So the clamp set that you get with the race cage has 2 sets of clamps. One's that has either no spacers or small spacers, and another one that has longer spacers. So depending on the bike, on the S40, the tall spacers go on the top. On the V20C, since that headrest tube is more vertical, the long spacers go on the bottom, and the clamps with the smaller spacers go on the top to kind of give it a nice little uptick angle to give you the right kind of clearance underneath for the tire. All right, so depending on where our clamps are going, our bolts, either the long or the short ones, go through the inside of the cage and then through the holes in the mesh. It will be a stretch to get those through the holes, but that's okay. They don't necessarily line up exactly, but you can finagle the inside of that cage around to match the holes, and that'll give it a nice taut stretch on the fabric. All right, once we have our bolts through the cage and through the grommets, now we can get to mounting our race cage on our headrest. Now take note, in the video, the spacers are not installed in the clamps, but your clamps may have the spacers pre-installed, which is a good thing. If you want to use a shorter spacer or you want to use no spacer in one particular instance, depending on the height of your headrest, you can simply pull the spacers out of the clamps with a pair of pliers. But either way, you'll have the long spacers. In this case, they'll go on the top, and on this case, the short spacers or no spacers option will go on the bottom. That'll give us a nice level race cage once it's installed. We'll simply put our spacers on the tubes. The bolt side will be facing towards the front of the bike, and the clamps will be on the outside, as in the bolts on the race cage will be on the outside of the headrest tubes. And once we have our clamps attached and we know what spacers we're going to use or which position our spacers need to be in, then we will simply bolt the race cage to the clamps using a 4mm Allen. Once everything is nice and tight and aligned level, you should have a good level race cage on your cruise bike. Okay, let's go. If you plan on using your race cage to carry water, you can always certainly just put a bladder in here and run the hose through the top, or you can mount cages. There's two mounts. You can mount them in a lower position or an upper position. That might depend on your ability to reach and also the size of the bottles you might want to use. Now, these are just simple M5 standard bottle cage threaded bosses. So you'll want to use some nice short length screws so you don't poke through the other side of the fabric. You only need little short 5-6mm bolts. Usually the ones that come with bottle cages will work. And then you can mount those cages in the upper position or the lower position, depending on your needs. Okay, so here we've mounted one cage in the upper position, one cage in a lower position, so you can kind of see the height difference of the different cages. As you can see here with the bottle in the lower mounted cage versus the upper cage, it changes the height quite a bit. So between the bottle you use, the capacity of the bottle you use, and the cage you have, you'll find a proper height for you. Here we have a really tall bottle in the lower cage and a smaller bottle in the upper cage. Both of them stick out pretty far. But if you're using a tall bottle like this, you'll probably want that cage in the lower position for sure. If you don't carry water in there, or you just want to use a hydration pack, then you can simply just zip the entire thing closed. Okay, in addition to mounting the race cage to your bike, you're going to have a small floor that comes with it. If you're racing and you want to shave some weight, you certainly don't need to have this in there. But if you're going to be carrying anything in the back, it's good to have it in. So you have some small Velcro that you will want to use to attach to the lower platform bars of the race cage. And once you have that Velcro in there, the floor will simply Velcro in place and stay put. Keep everything nice and quiet and secure. Once you have the floor in place, you can add the divider. So similar to a camera bag, it simply velcros to the sides with a small fuzzy velcro facing forward, because that's how the lid attaches to it. Now you have your two compartments, the possible open one in the front and then the closed one in the back. All right, now just for fun, we're going to see what all can be hauled in the race cage. I do not necessarily recommend using this to carry a significant amount of weight, but let's just see how many bottles. People generally ask how much stuff fits in these things. How many bottles can you fit in a pannier? Trying to get a sense for the capacity. Here we're going to fill this up with some of the smaller size Gatorades. We'll see what we can get in here. All right, well, there you go. You're carrying around a virtual rest stop in your race cage, or you can carry a few less bottles and get your sweatshirt in there, or your jacket. You got all your other goodies in here. You got your pump, you got your wallet, phone, wallet, keys, all accounted for, either in the front or the back. Again, I don't necessarily recommend using this for higher weight applications. It's not designed for that. But always remember, if you're going to be carrying heavier items in your race cage, place them as close to the headrest tubes as possible. Don't put heavy items at the very back, because you want to prevent that thing from bouncing around. Just remember all your rules of leverage to keep heavier items like water bottles and bladders towards the headrest side of the race cage, please. Now also note, on the very back there is mounts for some lights or cameras or any other particular items. They are threaded. There are no holes on the fabric though, so if you want to use the back of the race cage to mount a light, then you'll have to use a hot nail or a hot soldering iron to melt a hole, like through the threaded holes. And then you can use those threaded holes to mount other accessories. Like the cyclic camera for one item is a bolt-on, I believe. You can also just simply cut some small slits or melt some small slits in the fabric. It is a ripstop type material. As we can see here on this race cage, we have a few little cuts, and then the band wraps right around that inner bar to mount a light. It's a really good surface for mounting a light, but it does not have any kind of pre-made attachment or holes for any particular light, because there are so many. Every one is unique, so that's an item you're going to have to figure out on your own. Okay, the cover itself, it just stretches over, so you always want to make sure that you have this nice and tight. And when you do your initial assembly, make sure everything is nice and snug, but as everything settles in, do some adjustments and make sure that that Velcro is nice and secure and even, so those zippers are nice and tight on the side. Once you're happy with the height and spacing of everything, then the headrest pad, of course, simply goes right back on the tubes using the Velcro attachment. All right, here we have a V20C with the suspension adjustable headrest. This is the one with the slightly bigger tubes. Just an example that the race cage also easily fits on this headrest as well. This particular rider is using the suspension adjustable headrest on top of the other infinitely adjustable headrest. In this case, the clamps that we're using, we're going to just simply remove the shims. Since the headrest is perfectly vertical, we may or may not need spacers depending on the height above the tire. And we can go through that same install process on this headrest as well. All right, and there you have it, the Cruzbike race cage on 3 different bikes, coming to you from Florida Bike Safari. As always, if you have questions, please email us at support@cruzbike.com, and thanks for watching.